This week on the Socratic Cinema podcast, I watched this movie with my girlfriend, and it maybe wasn't a good date night movie because it's a little grim, some serious cuckery going on in that.
This cuckery shall not
Right.
stand.
So, like, dog, we don't have to offer sacrifices anymore. That's
Literally.
not a thing, and we don't have to do it.
But yeah, but that is exactly the
Charlie,
most intense
we've reached the guys status,
can't
Charlie.
believe it.
That was
We've done-
crazy. That was
Now we just need to get to the lads.
The lads.
lads. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Socratic Cinema podcast, Recordathon 2020 edition.
Yeah.
Woo! This is our second episode of the Recordathon batch, and we're feeling spry, ready to go, right, guys?
The day
Yes.
is young.
The day is young. It's only 12:06 p.m. right now on a cool December 30th day. That's going to be a trip when you guys hear this episode in like April. December 30th. But anyways, before we start today's podcast, my name is James DeLisio.
I'm Kasey Clark.
And I'm Charlie Heatherly.
That was just a little bit late. I hope the audience retention was enough for them to stick around for that. Before we start today's podcast, we did watch The Devil All the Time, Netflix original. But before we talk about it, I feel obligated to say a parental advisory warning. This film was very intense, very violent, lots of graphic content. And we'll be discussing all facets of the movie wherever our conversation goes. So if that's not something that you're comfortable with, or you feel, uncomfy with that, please maybe consider skipping this episode because we discuss some graphic themes and graphic content. It's just a really nasty movie. So if you're like under the age of, it can't be too much younger than us because we're not that old, and that would feel weird. So I'm gonna say, like a cautious 16-year-old, cautious 15-year-old, maybe. I don't know. Don't let me tell you. Talk to your parents before you watch it, kiddies. Emma, I am looking at you. Our
Call her
number
out.
one fan. But yeah, with that being said, we watched Devil All the Time, starring Tom Holland and Robert Pattinson. Banger actors, seriously. Star-studded cast. But let's do what we do best on the Socratic Cinema show and give our initial impressions. I'm going to say, Kasey, you want to start us off?
Sure, I'll start us off. So I watched this later than I should have. So I wouldn't suggest watching it at night unless you're with other people because this will mess you up. If you're anything like me, like I'm a pretty sensitive person.
Kasey, I'm sorry.
I was not having a good time. Like I texted the guys like afterwards. I was like, this was the
Charlie,
most intense
we've reached the guys status,
can't
Charlie.
believe it.
That
We've
was
done
crazy. That was
Now we just need to get to the lads.
The
And then we'll-
lads.
lads. Watching a film with the lads.
But overall, as much as it freaked me out a little bit, it was a really, really good movie. Like I was stewing on it a little bit, and I was like, because after watching it the first time, I'm like, I'm never watching this again. Once is enough for me. I don't know if I could put myself through that again. But so after stewing on it, I'm like, you know what? I'd watch it. Like the cast is really good. As James has said, we have Tom Holland, Bill Skarsgård, Robert Pattinson, Sebastian Stan, and like it's wild. We got everybody up in here, all the superheroes,
Our
as we
favorite
can
white
see,
boys.
our favorite white boys. And it's really interesting. It's a lot to take in. There's a lot going on,
Yes.
and you have to be paying attention because there's definitely a lot of time skips that sometimes they're announced and sometimes they're not.
Yeah, and just a lot of characters and plot threads to keep track of.
Yes, yeah. Which honestly, if you're paying attention, like it's fine. It's not like a handful. But we'll get into some of the like plot lines later, and like the main thing is like how we're looking at these two towns and we're looking at all these people and how they're all connected. And so the entire movie is kind of going through all of those connections. And it's actually really, really interesting, but it is incredibly graphic. It's like 2 hours of slightly heinous people doing lots of heinous things.
Oh gosh, yeah. It's one of the more graphic films I think I've ever seen. I didn't know much about this movie going in, and wow, it was a lot. But I know Charlie has some feelings about this movie.
I am always the person on this show with the dissenting opinion, and I'm always the little special Sally who has to come in and like set right the opinion of this group.
Damn straight. Well, no, set wrong. Sorry.
Well, okay. This movie is hot take, a dark movie.
Oh, that's a hot.
Do we agree so
That's
far?
It's a pretty,
piping.
that's like a hot, but like hot coming out of the microwave, you know? So like
Steamy,
kind of
one might
cold
say.
in the middle.
Well,
still.
okay.
Anyone who watched the movie would agree with you.
Yes. So this movie is a dark movie, and I personally like a lot of dark movies and television shows. I don't want to list them because we'll be here for a while. But this is all to say that I think dark media is only as good as the moments of reprieve within it. I think that there needs to be a contrast between the small victories of the characters and the overall sort of downward spiral that the story is heading in order for anything to be satisfying within the movie or for me to be interested at all. And I think the problem with this film is that it's just a lot of just bad stuff constantly happening. Things just keep going down. The only part of the movie that I thought was actually really good was the ending, because we finally do get to see some sort of resolution and victory for one of the better characters in the film, because nobody in this film is really that great of a character.
I'd say Arvin is the best character. I think he's our
We
protagonist for
love
sure.
Arvin.
Yeah,
we love
Honestly,
we love
I do.
Arvin.
I don't care. I love Arvin.
You guys just like him because he sounds like Armin from Attack on Titan. That's
I-
the only reason.
I accidentally wrote down Alvin in my notes. So I was
He is a chipmunk.
headed in the right place. But go on.
But so I think that this movie doesn't do enough of sort of tonal balancing for me to really enjoy it. And I feel like after a while, when people just keep being horrible people, it gets less interesting to me. Like the violence stops becoming a tool for the director to use to make me pay attention, and it becomes more of the constant.
Yeah, I get that. I understand.
It's like someone who only swears every once in a while. Those swear words have meaning, right? As opposed to when someone just swears constantly, suddenly that word is robbed of all its venom. This is what Tarantino did really, really well in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I think is a fairly similar movie. In that movie, he built up the action and then released it all in this one beautiful, glorious, horrible, fight scene, which was bloody and pulpy and just like disgusting to watch. But it was great because it relieved the tension of this movie. In this movie, there's not a whole lot of tension being built up because it's constantly being relieved by these horribly violent acts.
Yeah.
So-
No, I get that.
So I think the pacing and the tone are a little bit off, but I thought that the ending was great. I thought that all of the performances were really, really good. And there's a lot of thematic meat to sort of sink your teeth into for this one. So definitely not a horrible movie by any stretch. I think a 7 to a 7.5 is where I feel really comfortable giving this a review for.
You make good points, and I agree with them pretty much. I think the pacing is definitely a little off kilter, and it could have used some lighter moments to balance it out. I totally agree. I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. This might have been, I think there's only one movie we watched in this batch that I liked better, and you'll wait and see what that one is. But this is, of the 5 films we watched, I put this in the number 2 spot. Part of that is because it's in my nature to like these movies. I love dark, gritty things, and I also love Westerns. So this movie's, in my opinion, is like a pseudo-Western. It sort of has the same vibe as maybe like a Coen Brothers thing. To me, this movie's like, it's a blend of a bunch of different movies that I really like. To me, it's like you take the pacing of Irishman, the plot structure. I'm gonna just let him.
So usually when this happens, when it's remote recording, I just turn my mic off. But
Yeah. So it's a blend of movies that I really like, right? You got the pacing of Irishman, throw in and sort of the tone of Irishman, throw in the plot structure of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Alfred?
Oh, just a single bark. That's
Just a little woof. Some of the more tone and violence of like No Country for Old Men. And you kind of stir that pot around and maybe a little dash of like Blood Meridian or Unforgiven or something. Blood Meridian's not a film, but I really like it anyways. And You Get Devil All the Time is the result of that function. And I really like it. I think it works. I watched this film not by myself. I watched this movie with my girlfriend, and it maybe wasn't a good date night movie because it's a little grim. It's a little. She wasn't as big of a fan of it as I was. I don't think she was not a fan of a lot of the graphic content, but it was good. I really liked it. I thought Arvin was an excellent protagonist. I thought his sort of grim hero's journey was really fun. I was really hoping Robert Pattinson was going to be a good guy going into this movie. He really wasn't. He was really not. Robert Pattinson was, I thought, a great villain, and I have some gripes about some of the plot structure in this movie. There's some things that I think are underdeveloped, and we'll talk more about it, and maybe what I would have changed. Blah blah blah. Again, the pacing was a little off. It's I think the biggest impression I got from this film is that, and there's something. Whoa. Charlie?
No, I'm just playing around.
Oh, he's like leaning into his mic, and I was like, oh. There's another movie we watched that I have a similar point about, but this movie feels like a book more than it feels like a movie, in my estimation.
Because it's based off of a book.
Right. But I mean, there's lots of book adaptations that feel like movies.
Oh, sure. Okay.
This feels like I'm reading a book.
I agree. Completely agree.
The structure and the length and the narration and stuff makes this feel like a book to me. Are you okay, Kasey?
No, yeah. I'm reading trivia stuff so that I can...
Here, give us a fact.
All right. Fact. I'll give you two.
Oh.
So, actor Harry Melling, who, in my notes... as a Potter fan, I felt very upset because I was like, Neville, but really it's Dudley Dursley, and that's all you really need to know about his character. But he dumped real orb weaver spiders on his head and said that he was okay with it as long as the spiders weren't changed to snakes. So I guess in the book they were snakes. But anyways, and then another one is Chris Evans was originally cast as Deputy Lee Bodecker, but had to drop out of the film due to scheduling conflicts, and his Marvel co-star Sebastian Stan took over the role.
Oh, that's awesome.
How crazy is that?
Do we think we would have liked Chris Evans better as Bodecker?
No. I think that Chris Evans is too much of America's sweetheart to like.
Yeah.
It's like casting Tom Hanks as the guy that kills all those models that he takes pictures of. Like you can't cast certain actors in certain roles because you know them for everything else.
With that being said, I think sweet baby boy Tom Holland did a great job getting into the gritty.
Yeah.
He really did a good job.
Sure. I think that Tom Holland might be a little bit of an exception though, because I think he started off his film career with something a bit darker and more in tone.
Wasn't he in Hook?
Maybe? I have no clue.
He played a little Peter Pan boy somewhere, didn't he?
He played Oliver Twist, I think. But he did he did a lot of stage plays and stuff. But I don't think he was.
I don't know, Charlie Google man.
What? Yeah.
Yes, I'm wearing a big giant Snuggie, and I put my hands inside of the Snuggie, so now they're no longer through the arms, and now I have to go into my Snuggie cave by going inside of it to Google everything. So I will return once I figure out the answer to this.
I wish we had cameras so you guys could see this. This is some Socratic content right here. Charlie in the Snuggie cave, but we'll find out. Dante Bosco was in Hook. That's what
he
it is.
Was, yes.
Zuko. I keep seeing him on my TikTok, and
he's hilarious.
I'm not complaining about it. Yeah, he writes a lot of poetry.
Yeah,
he's got the voice, man.
He really does.
He really does. But anyways, Devil All the Time. The gist of this film, and we can hop in and start discussing stuff. But the gist of this film is, in my point of view, it's sort of like two chunks. There's this like 30 minutes of exposition at the beginning all about Arvin's father, Willard. And that's sort of like...
That was rough.
It feels like the first few chapters of the book before you meet the protagonist, where it's just like... A lot of times in classic novels, they do that, where it's like you don't actually meet the guy for a while. And it was weird not seeing Tom Holland for like 30 minutes. I was like, where's who I'm here for? But... The first 30 minutes of the film is this long-winded introduction about Willard and sort of how this man comes home traumatized from seeing this crucifixion in World War II. You're good, Kasey. I didn't pick
Sorry.
it up. And you sort of see how the traumas of war and this sort of religious fanaticism his father has, gives Arvin a lot of trauma. I think it's safe to say one of the biggest themes in this movie are like the ravaging effects of war and religious trauma.
Yeah.
But then after that, I think the bulk of the film is four intertwining stories. You got Arvin exacting his brutal revenge on the bullies. And,
that was
anyone
satisfying.
who does his family wrong. You've got Arvin trying to protect his family, Arvin being Willard's son, years later. You got Arvin protecting his family. You've got Pastor, what's his name? Preston something?
Preston. Oh,
you got Preston, Robert Pattinson's Pastor, Reverend Preston, seducing Arvin's sister, Lenora, and how that develops in a bad way.
Yeah.
Then you got Carl and Sandy, who take pictures of people and then kill them, and it's real nasty. And then you got Sheriff Bodecker, who's Sandy's brother and is trying to deal with, these people trying to blackmail him for being related to a serial killer. And we get to see these
and
four...
a hooker. She's a hooker.
She gets pimped out by Carl is basically what's happening.
Essentially.
And we get to see how these four lovely, family-friendly storylines intertwine in this big finale. And I think some of the plot lines are better than others. I ain't gonna lie. I think I liked the Arvin content, and I liked the Carl and Sandy content a lot. But the Bodecker plot line, to me, just felt kind of underwhelming. Like, they didn't really spend that much time on it.
Yeah,
but
pretty boring.
I don't know. Which plot line should we talk about first?
I don't know. I think we get into the meat of it with... do we save Arvin for a bit later, though?
Maybe we talk a little bit about each of them and then talk about how it kind of comes together. I think we should save Bodecker for last since he's kind of crucial.
Okay, sure. Also, after the Snuggie Cave, I've come back with some research and facts. From 2008 to 2010, I hate that phrase. Tom Holland was Billy Elliot in Billy Elliot the Musical.
That's what
He was not Peter Pan ever?
I don't think so.
I don't see a Peter Pan in here. And then in 2010, his film debut was in Arrietty, where he was an English UK dub voice actor for a Japanese animated film.
That's Arrietty's Ghibli, I believe.
Sure.
Good for Holland.
Yeah.
Honestly,
you guys,
he's great.
I had to buy an HBO Max subscription for Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah.
All the Ghibli movies are on there.
Yeah.
Really?
All of them.
They have everything.
I didn't know that.
Well, now you can get value out of that HBO Max
All right,
subscription.
I'm going to watch all of the Ghibli movies before my HBO Max subscription is up. That's what I'm here for. No, we got a month.
Oh,
Yeah,
great.
it was like
That's
$15 for a month.
Damn.
I'm going to hop on that deal.
period. Yes.
I know. But anyways, let's talk about Carl and Sandy.
Sure.
Oh, God.
Because they were kind of, we got introduced to them pretty early on. They were some of the first characters we met, actually.
Yeah, they got introduced during the Willard 30 minutes.
Yeah, and then they killed Dudley.
Yes, they did. Oh, that was...
Poor guy.
No.
No, not poor guy.
Not poor guy.
He deserved it.
He killed his wife and then tried to bring her back with the power of the Lord. You're starting to see where this whole religious theme is coming in now, audience.
After locking himself in the closet for ages. Helen deserved better.
He said locking. Man was stuck in the
up
closet.
in the closet.
But I think Carl and Sandy were a very entertaining story because Sandy's kind of reluctant the whole time, but also like there's just some shock factor to it all. Like it felt very Scorsese to me. Like it felt like something that could have been out of The Irishman or something. Like it was just very jarring and like they didn't hold back at all with the photographs and everything. And
Nope.
It was just like because we don't see them commit any of their crimes. We meet Carl and Sandy in the very beginning, and they're like, they would go on to take photographs of their victims, blah blah blah, and then we don't see anything until 30 minutes later. We cut back to Carl and Sandy, and they got Dudley now, and we get to see how they really do their stuff, and man, is it a little PG-13, a little R-rated, a little coldy, but I don't know. There's some serious cuckery going on in that. But.
This cuckery shall not stand.
So Carl basically gets his victims to like undress and do
Bang his wife.
illicit things with his wife.
Bang his wife.
While he takes pictures, and then he kills the guy.
Well, he cuts his genitals off.
Yeah.
He
And
does.
takes pictures.
He does do that too.
Is that draw or quartering? I forget which one it is.
Well, I thought that's when you like tie each limb to like a horse and you
that's
set the
when you,
horses
like-
in different directions.
I know
That's,
that
I
That's
think
drawn
it's
and quartering.
castration.
Yeah,
castration. That's what it is.
Yeah.
They used to do that to little
Oh.
choir boys so their voices wouldn't go deeper. and so they
Yeah.
can sing the high parts.
You Catholics, man.
Castratos. But yeah, Carl and Sandy. Yeesh.
Oh man.
But I felt bad for Sandy the whole time. Like
No, yeah.
she does not want to do it. Like she's very clearly, under some sort of coercion, and I feel bad.
Very over it.
Feel bad for Sandy. I'm not gonna lie. Sandy deserved better. She really did not deserve what happened to her.
Yeah.
Sure.
Spoiler warning: she gets capped in the head in the car.
By Tom
By
Holland.
Tom Holland.
And I just feel really bad about.
She
for
deserved
her.
it. I don't know.
I felt
I
okay.
don't-
She helped murder people. I don't know.
She deserved it, but I don't.
Yeah.
I am against the death penalty unless it's Tom Holland giving out the execution.
I thought you meant unless Tom Holland is getting executed. And I was like, I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, but she's a really complex character because she's very obviously like trapped. But we have these
Yeah.
like scenes where she's like sending tips to like the
To
police officers,
Yeah, yeah.
like, oh yeah, there's this dude in a suitcase chopped up pretty bad. No, I'm not gonna talk to anyone.
Oh yeah, from the
that was
payphone.
like, okay then.
She's sort of doing her best.
Rawr.
You guys like that? Maybe we'll keep that one in.
Maybe
here.
we'll keep that.
Maybe we'll keep that one in.
That was clear.
Yeah, but I agree. I thought Sandy was a fun character, and then I felt bad for her in her situation. Despite I don't consider who's the bad guys of this movie.
Everybody.
Everyone.
Okay, I think Arvin is the clear.
Religion.
I think Arvin is the good guy. He's the protagonist at the
He's
least.
the protagonist.
Anti-hero.
I think he has good
Anti-hero.
motives. I think his motives are good. I mean,
yeah.
he's like a dark, anti-hero. That's a good. I think the clearest bad guys are Reverend Preston and Carl. I think
Yes.
Bodecker is an interesting character in that his motives are also good, kind of. Better than most.
Better.
He just wants
he's like
re-election.
mid-tier.
He wants re-election, but he also wants, justice for his sister's murder.
Yeah. And,
Yeah,
and like,
that's
I
like-
guess
He's like a reflection of Arvin.
Yeah, they're kind of
Foils.
foils.
Let's get.
Foil
Let's
alert.
get into it. You know what? We're talking about Bodecker now. Sheriff Bodecker. I feel bad though because this, in my opinion, was the worst plot line.
Yes.
I think it got the least time. There's only like 3 scenes of it. Basically, Sheriff Bodecker's gist is that he's Sandy's brother and he's trying to get reelected as mayor. But some random thug guys know that
Leroy
Leroy and
and
Bubba are. They know what's up, and they're basically trying to blackmail Bodecker. And so he goes to their house and kills them, and then he finds out that Arvin shot Sandy, and so he goes and tries to shoot Arvin, and then Arvin shoots him. And that's really all there is to Bodecker's story.
Yeah, other than him being dangerously horny the entire time.
yes.
He was?
Yes,
He got a
had
hand job in a
whole
car.
hand job in a
Oh, I
car.
forgot about that scene. That was so nasty, though.
Into a cup as well.
I know, that was
Yeah,
really gross.
I was like, oh,
I
this is
blocked
not
that scene
necessary.
out. But
Was that girl in that scene anybody? Was she just
No, it was
random?
just like I think that kind of set up his whole like, oh, baby, we got to keep this on the low because I'm getting reelected.
he's doing.
He's doing
He has bad
dirty
connections, but
dealings.
he's
Well, I mean, like, out of all of the possible bad things that could be done by the characters in this movie, that one's pretty
That's pretty.
low on the list.
Yeah, it's pretty mundane. But I think the reason I'm so frustrated with him, I would have been fine with his plotline as it is if it wasn't as important. Like, the final showdown of the film is between Bodecker and Arvin. And it's nice that there are these cool reflections of each other, both trying to get justice for their sister, and also the fact that Sheriff Bodecker was the one who rescued Arvin from, his situation with his dad, kind of. It's just disappointing that we didn't get more Bodecker development for that final duel to be really important.
Yeah.
It's like we spend the whole film building up to the Arvin v. Preston duel, and then that's over and there's still like an hour left to build up to the next one. And it's like, I just wish we had more time with Bodecker. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think for somebody who's going to be the climactic final showdown, Bodecker really was not fleshed out that much, if at all. Like, you're right, he doesn't really show up in that many scenes. I feel like a lot of his driving motivation is external to him. Like, oh, my sister's the one doing the bad things. That's why they're blackmailing me. Not for any of the bad things I've done, but for my sister. Oh, now my sister's dead. Now I got to take action. Like, he feels like he's very reactive as a character.
Yeah.
Which is not something I enjoy a whole lot with characters. But I don't know. I just didn't feel like Bodecker was that interesting at all.
Yeah, same.
He seems very flat. And like Sebastian Stan did, a he played Bodecker.
Yeah, did what he could.
Yeah.
Like there's not a whole lot of like, emotion to get out of Bodecker except for the final, showdown, which I think was well acted and done well.
Oh yeah.
But just not a whole. I don't care that Tom Holland's going up against Bodecker, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it's like I was much more hyped for the
Preston.
for the Preston showdown, and I think that was possibly the best scene in the movie.
Oh yeah.
But speaking of which, let's talk about Preston and Lenora.
Oh my god.
I think that was the main event kind of the film.
It really was. So essentially what happens is Preston grooms Lenora because Lenora's like very pious. She's kind of like very religious, frumpy, gets bullied by these guys, which Arvin beats the crap out of.
Love to see it.
Love to see it. But she has this thing where she always goes to visit her mother's grave, the mother that Dudley shanked and then tried to resurrect and then buried. And so she has all of that kind of trauma going on. And then her and Preston kind of bond over being the like ostracized religious kid. But he's really just trying to groom her the entire time. They go on like these car rides. And I knew it was just going to downward spiral because he's like, oh, what did he say? Something like, oh, have you ever presented yourself
to
I was
the
like,
Lord?
No. And then we don't really get any more of their car rides, but we know what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, they got involved with each other.
Yeah, to the point where Lenora becomes pregnant. We see morning sickness and strangely no one knows what's going on and she's embarrassed. She misses church.
Yeah.
And Preston kind of just like
he's like, I'm not the father.
Yeah, and even has like a whole sermon about like delusion. That's so funny. But then essentially Lenora has confronted Preston about it, and as James said, he's like, I'm not the father. You're making this up. This is all in your head or whatever. Like you're being with someone else. You're unholy. You're this. You're that. You're gonna be bringing shame onto your family. So then she sets up to kill herself essentially, and then realizes halfway through, they're like, oh no, it'll all be fine. But of course she's a little too good at trying to kill herself and
That
succeeds.
was so sad.
That was really sad.
That is really stupid is what it was. Oh, I've decided I'm no longer going to kill myself. Oh, let me just get down from this butt. Oh, and then she trips in the bucket.
It was sad to me. I feel like it was the kind
it
of
was
like
really
I was like, you klutz. How would you even do that?
I see your frustration, but from like a tone and plot perspective, I think it's exactly what would have happened in a movie like this.
No,
like,
yeah.
it's the kind of grim, morbid, kind of just bad luck. Everyone in this movie just got bad luck. Shout out to Grandma and Uncle Erskine, though.
Oh, yes.
Uncle Ben and Aunt May, man, for real.
Honestly,
Literally.
they've been through the worst.
Maybe we should point out that, because it took me a while to get the family trees figured out. Lenora and Arvin are like adopted siblings. They're not blood related.
Step-ish.
Yeah, step-ish, except neither of their parents are related.
Yeah, they're like first cousins.
Are they even related at all?
Well,
Do they have any blood
they're
connections?
not.
I think it's
no, they're entirely different.
it's an Aaron Mikasa situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was really concerned that they were gonna go for like a romance between them at first, and I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, I like the protective brother sister dynamic a little more. I think we haven't seen that played as much. So,
Aaron Mikasa.
It literally is, yeah.
Like,
But reverse.
Well, except Mikasa does want to,
yeah,
she likes his Titan form a little too
We
much.
can talk about that in the Attack on Titan season 4 episode, or in my Attack on Titan video essay. No, okay. Preston, man, I haven't seen very much from Robert Pattinson. Just that's my own fault. So I really wanted to see like him be a good guy, and he wasn't. And I was really sad that he wasn't a good guy. But I didn't get there's this scene, the introduction to him. Everyone brings a dish to the church, and Arvin's family's poor, so they bring fried chicken livers.
Yeah,
and
chitterlings, as you.
Chitterlings and
Chitlins.
chitlins.
Oh. You're
Dang.
This makes sense.
And then the pastor's like, I can see that someone in our community is poor and brought us chicken livers. So that just shows me how much everyone in this thing cares. This parish cares, right? They all bring in what they can afford. And at first I was like, oh, what a good guy. He's like saying how everyone's doing their part. That's great. That's like straight up scripture, you know, the lady with nothing puts in her 2 coins anyways. And I was like, great, love Robert Pattinson. And then a second later, he's like, so I will take it upon myself to suffer through it and eat these chicken livers all on my own. So then I was like, dude, no.
The secondhand embarrassment.
I would have
during that.
cried. I would have cried and
sobbed.
left, or I would have socked him. It's one or the other.
I would have gotten angry at him. Are you kidding me?
I know. I felt so bad for the grandma there.
She did not, like, her and Lenora, like, those are just
The spotless victims. They
literally they
I
did
feel
nothing
so
and went through the most.
But what was so concerning about Lenora to me is that after like it happens for the first time, you know, after she's with the pastor for the first time, she's like, oh, don't worry, Arvin, you don't need to pick me up after school anymore. Smirk emoji.
Yeah, and he says nothing about
Yeah, and I was like,
He just got used to it. He was just like, yeah, sure.
but I was like, Lenora, I can't feel too bad when
I mean, no, you can.
like I do
'cause he's
feel bad still.
fully
Like
taking advantage.
she's
of
being
her.
groomed, but like it's just I was like, Lenora, wake up.
Her whole thing is that she trusts authority figures a whole bunch, which starts with God as like her main
Yeah.
authority
It's
figure.
like God, Arvin, and then Preston got
Yeah.
bumped
Yeah.
over Arvin.
Like, I mean, as she said to Arvin in one of the scenes, like, well, he's a man of the Lord. He would not be here without the Lord, right? So she definitely believes
Vomit
whatever he's
noises.
saying is some sort of holy gospel, and she needs
Yeah.
to, you know, go with it.
Yeah.
So really, it's because of her religious faith that she got into this situation
Yeah.
and doesn't recognize that she's being groomed or like
Yeah, which
hurt
is
in any way.
And it's good maybe that this movie is bringing light to that sort of thing because I mean that's how this stuff happens and we know it happens. Yeah, but I mean, yeah, just very unfortunate for all these
Yeah.
characters. Very unfortunate to watch. What I'm a little confused about is now, as an audience member, if I could think to myself and I was Arvin, I would be able to put the pieces together with what happened, right? Lenora takes her life, and he knows she's been hanging out with the pastor, and he finds out she was pregnant. You can put the pieces together as to what happened. But
Yes.
we never see Arvin make that connection. Like, he just shows up going to kill the pastor, and then he's like, I've been spying on you for the past 2 weeks. It's like, I wish we would have got to see you spy on him. Unless I missed something.
No?
No.
He just was apparent. Like, the whole time he was just watching, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
Was he like? But
Well,
then
because he
wouldn't
said
have-
he was like, I've been watching, because he knew the details of everything that happened.
No, yeah. So he was watching the pastor with the other girl.
Oh no, we do get those scenes because do you remember when he or when the pastor was getting head from that one lady and then
his wife.
Yeah, from his wife and he pushes her down further.
Yeah.
And like she.
That's from Tom Holland's point of view. That's from
Was
Arvin's
it?
point of
Okay,
view.
Yeah, that's why it was through the. That was
Yeah.
actually a really cool shot.
That was a really
It
cool
was really
shot.
good
I just
shot.
didn't put it together that was supposed to be Arvin's point of view. I guess
Yeah.
I just was kind of confused.
It only
and
makes
even
sense
in
in
the car
retrospect.
too. Like when it's like.
Oh yeah, it's so
Bad.
far
Yeah, when
away.
she's like hanging out the
in
car
their-
door. Yeah.
You're right. Okay, it's just camera. You have to. Yeah, it's an intuition thing, I guess.
That made me uncomfortable.
Oh, it
that
did.
whole montage made me so uncomfortable.
Yeah, the
Well,
pastor's
I
nasty.
love that scene where Arvin is like recounting everything that the pastor did.
Oh, it's so
because
good.
it's straight out of Hamlet. Like
Yeah, it is.
It really
it's
is.
just the play from Hamlet just put into that scene, and I'm like, yes, this is great.
It-
I love this.
Was the best scene in the movie, I think, by a long shot. It was
Oh,
so
yeah.
good, and he it's in the church too, very thematically on point. The showdown in the church, and he's like telling all the exact details of everything the pastor's done. Been like, Pastor, I'm a sinner. I've been doing this stuff.
I love how the pastor's just right there with him. He's like, really? Well, da 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 da.
He's like, oh, you did? Same. I don't know, but then
Well,
he's-
no, some of the things the pastor says are so funny, and he's like, oh, or Arvin's saying like, yeah, I've been forcing my wife to do all these sorts of things, and he's like, oh, is it her gag reflex? Sometimes that's what happens.
Yeah, oh my
I
gosh.
know, and I was like,
I was
I
like,
was like, what?
and then
He's like, no, she didn't throw up on me, and he's like, good. Well, then what's there to worry about? Then everything seems fine. And I'm like, dude, you're so self-incriminating. I can't even.
you're
with you.
really.
and then
that's the
Arvin
thing.
pulls out the Luger.
Hans
and-
get the Luga.
Dude, actual I almost said Kafka's gun. That's not how that works.
Actual Chekhov's
Yeah,
gun.
literal Chekhov's gun. We get the gun in like early on in the movie, and then it comes back to be the climactic gun. It was, A1 masterful example of Chekhov's gun.
Yes. Well, also there's another mention about the gun that comes back in the very final scene where I think it's the granddad says, if you really want to kill something, then you should get a shotgun. Those pistols won't do you any good.
Oh, yeah.
And then we see that the sheriff comes in with a shotgun.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
So for that entire scene, I was like, oh, Arvin's going to die. Because he
Yeah.
said that the shotgun's better for killing people. But then when Arvin comes in and kills him, it's like a subversion of expectations, if you,
Yeah.
That's
remember
so
that line.
good.
I was really afraid that Arvin was going to die. I'm glad Arvin got to live. I'm glad he made it out. Like,
Yeah.
that was the one glimmer of hope, is that he made it out and, like, met friendly hitchhikers who weren't going to,
Oh my God.
murder him.
I was so scared.
I can't trust any hitchhiker scenes anymore because there was, Arvin gets duped by hitchhikers Carl and Sandy once already, and also, the Jeffrey Dahmer movie with Ross Lynch, My Friend
yeah.
Dahmer. The final scene is Jeffrey Dahmer picking up some hitchhikers and he drives off with them, and then it like fades to black. It's like, they were his first victims. Jeffrey Dahmer later. Yeah, her
Yeah.
ears were cut off. Her legs were cut off. Her eyeballs were cut off.
Her tongue was cut off. Her eyebrows were then shaved.
Her eyebrows were then waxed. And I was like, please don't kill Arvin at the very last second of the movie. That would ruin it for me. But it didn't. And like, Arvin shows more of his vulnerable side and like being able to fall asleep by the guy. And it's like,
Yeah.
and for once it was filled with hope. And it felt like a lovely book ending. And I really like the ending of this movie.
I agree. I was really hoping that we would get Brad Pitt coming in as his character from Inglourious Bastards to draft Arvin back into the military.
Oh my God.
Be like, this is your purpose now, to kill them Nazis.
Oh, well, this takes
mean, I
place
get-
this is after World War II, no?
It's going into Nam, I thought.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
going
like the
into-
50s, 60s kind
Yeah.
Still, you always need some Nazi scouts. at some
Yeah,
point in
sir.
time.
Right, because his dad served in World War II in the
Yeah.
Pacific.
Yeah, but my point is that I think Brad Pitt would have been a great actor for this movie, and I can't believe they didn't cast
he
him.
would have fit very
He
well.
would've,
You're
yeah.
correct. He totally.
Him as Bodecker? Hot take.
That would have been much better than Sebastian Stan.
I could see a
No
Brad
shade
Pitt
to
as-
Sebastian.
No,
No,
yeah.
no, I love Sebastian Stan. I just feel like the role of Bodecker is very flat. Like, just
Yeah.
writing-wise and plot-wise, like, you can't do a lot with it. But I think having Brad Pitt in there, he's like the wacky Southerner in all the movies that he's
Yeah.
in.
I would have maybe swapped some of the events around to have maybe more of the rising action maybe have Lenora die a little earlier on. So more of the rising action can be Arvin kind of trying to solve the mystery. Right?
Yeah.
Then maybe have the Bodecker confrontation happen as part of the rising action. And then have the confrontation with the preacher as the finale. Because I think
that would be good.
there's a lot less stakes put on Arvin versus Bodecker. I think I was
Yeah.
way more invested in the preacher story. So I think maybe swapping those events would have been a better plot structure. Because that way Bodecker's less important. Like, it just doesn't matter as much. And maybe
Yeah.
that gives Sandy more of an... maybe Arvin... All right, maybe on his quest to kill the preacher, somehow Bodecker gets involved to try and stop him, because he is a sheriff and
Yeah.
Arvin is breaking the law. So Arvin shoots him. And maybe that's why Carl and Sandy target Arvin later on. As, like, opposite way of revenge. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here to try and make it work so that we can save the preacher for the end. Because I think it was a bit of a wasted opportunity there, like having it be so early gone. Again, best scene in the movie, I think. Just would have loved for that to be the climax.
I think even with the preacher, I would want more preacher content for that to make more sense.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
there's not like a
Yeah.
constant villain in this movie for anybody to root for, which I think might have been a little disappointing to me. It's like everyone's pretty bad, but I don't know which bad guy is gonna win.
Yeah, who's the biggest bad guy, right?
Yeah.
The biggest bad
Like the preacher was pretty bad, right? Because I mean, child molester, pretty groomer, not great. But then also the guy that was like cutting people's nuts off and then taking pictures of them, like he's pretty bad too. Yeah. But then that's also like resolved really quickly. But then somehow the final showdown is the normal sheriff guy, who
just has a dirty secret. It's like, it's
but
not.
his dirty secret is his sister.
It's like, not even me, but my sister is a bad person.
Yeah,
Well,
just, I don't
it's
know.
sort of like a Hunter Biden thing. Like, people whammed on him pretty hard for that still, even though it wasn't him.
I also did not care about the Hunter Biden thing.
I'm not. Some people clearly didn't. I didn't either. But you get my point here. But yeah, I think some things with the pacing and the plot structure could have changed. Honestly, I would keep the long Willard introduction. I think it added to the kind of novelistic feeling, which really worked for me. Like feeling like a novel is what I mean by that. I think that really worked, and I didn't mind having the family history aspect of it at all. It made it feel like kind of a grander tale than it really was, more like an epic. So maybe I'd keep that and just kind of mix up some of maybe make it a little shorter, cut out some of the Lenora's parents stuff, maybe.
Oh man, that was heartbreaking.
It was very outside of everything else, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, James. I think that having the long introduction is really, really good because this is sort of a movie about generational turmoil.
It's very much like sins of the father, sins of the son kind of thing.
Well, that with the backdrop of there being a war in each generation that they're trying to fight. Because you have World War II with Arvin's dad, and then you have Vietnam or whatever's happening with, sort of Arvin's generation.
Yeah.
Like, it's very much the world is progressing time-wise, but people are not progressing with it.
Right. And I mean, Arvin uses his father's gun, and there's at one point, it literally like smash cuts, Arvin in the same sort of scenario as his father when he's bandaging his fingers. It that was really cool. That was really good. Very good framing so that they wind up being in the same spot and everything, and that was very good. So it's harping hard on how one person's trauma and problems sort of become the next generation's. And I really like that. I think that's a timeless theme that works well.
Yeah. And the war on religion's timeless too, because that was
for real
throughout. Oh my gosh.
There's tons of sort of subversive takes on a lot of mainstay things in society. I mean, from the concept of war and fighting other nations to religion itself and all the sort of effects that are antithetical to the whole idea of Christianity that often this religious turmoil comes in and makes in people. I mean, even just the idea of being chaste, but then a lot of the people in this movie we see are very perverted sexually. Like, there's a lot of switching around of major societal mainstays that I think this movie does pretty well, and I thought that was interesting. As I said, lots of themes to bite into, but
very much so.
I think I put in my notes something that stood out to me was kind of like the prevalence of false idols.
Oh, go on.
Yes.
Like how preachers are kind of put up as false idols, and then we have like the prayer log, like that's a false idol for Willard that essentially kind of like because I feel like it becomes less about the like religion aspect for him, but just kind of like doing what
going through what he thinks
he's supposed to do because he's so like detached from it. So I feel like Arvin kind of carrying that detachment but never really trying to like go for, because Willard, he was detached, he couldn't look at a cross because of course like the crucified sergeant, but like, and he kind of took that and upped it to like a 10 by overcompensating
and killing the dog
and killing I hated that.
That was not great.
I
like, dog, we don't have to offer sacrifices anymore. That's
Literally.
not a thing, and we don't have to do that.
But that is exactly like for false idols. Like, what do you give a golden calf or whatever?
Yeah.
Speaking of false idols, this is gonna be the hottest take ever. Let's do a 7 deadly sins theory for this.
Oh boy, lust. I guess is probably Carl or Sandy.
Probably
Carl. Or maybe Carl's wrath.
Carl's gotta be wrath. I think that.
He just
all right, let's take this one thing at a time here. All right, let's start with. So who are our main players? Do we think Arvin, Preston, Lenora, Carl, Sandy, Bodecker, and
do you want to even put Dudley in there?
Dudley or Willard? I was thinking maybe.
Both of them you could use. Those are both very big sinners in this movie.
All right, well, we can, okay. Let's start with Arvin. Let's start with Arvin. I'm tempted to say wrath or...
Oh, yeah, he could fit wrath.
Well, yeah, because his sin is not forgiving people. It's just going back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so maybe he can be wrath. maybe Lenora doesn't have a sin. Envy, maybe?
No, I think that Lenora's whole thing is that she's meant to be like the most pure person, which is why when everyone's sins sort of muddle her. Very Ophelia from Hamlet.
Yeah.
Oh, man, yeah.
Ophelia didn't have a sin, like a main sin besides like the suicide at the end that she committed. Again, very similar to
this is very similar to Hamlet.
This movie is just Hamlet. So yeah, I don't think that Lenore really has any.
Okay.
I think
we can take her.
We can take her out.
And then we're down to 7.
Maybe Preston is pride. Maybe
Pride or lust?
I don't lust. Oh, they're all pretty lusty.
I would say he's lust, and then either Sandy.
Well, because the reason I say pride is because Preston tries so hard to preserve his image in the parish. You know.
Oh yeah.
Which makes me think a little more pride.
Sure, and I mean, I guess it's easy to give the hooker lust. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Which would make
Yeah.
Carl maybe like greed or something.
He's definitely greedy, I would say.
Maybe
in terms of-
Bodecker's greed,
Or is
Bodecker pride.
Who's
Bodecker
gluttony?
Oh, Carl could be gluttony.
Oh yeah, because he just wants.
Yeah.
He just wants
More
more and
murder.
more. Of the
Yeah.
same thing.
And so maybe Bodecker is greed, political votes, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Uh,
He's greedy for power, is what.
Yeah.
Maybe then we say that I can't fit one to Willard very easily.
What are the sins that we have left?
I don't know.
We have isn't sloth?
Sloth.
Sloth.
Is one.
Who's lazy in this movie?
Lenora no, she's the opposite of sloth.
She's out too. I think
she is.
Sandy sloth.
I don't
But
know.
she really doesn't.
I don't know that maybe we get like 5 out of the 7 here. I don't know if we're gonna make this one work. Yeah. Well, so 7 deadly sins theory. Maybe
Debunked.
Someone can do it.
Debunked, yeah.
Someone can do it better than us in the comments. I'm sure.
I just like applying the 7 deadly sins theory because it's like the cliche one to apply to
Yeah.
every single.
Oh, they were all
Yeah.
in purgatory the whole time, is what this movie was about. Guys.
Wow.
It was all a dream in Arvin's
Yeah.
head at the very end because he's falling asleep. This movie is actually just that.
He's
dream.
actually in a
Dang.
mental hospital this entire time.
Yeah. Oh.
It's modern day.
and he's played by Joaquin Phoenix.
He goes, you wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get.
I guess
We live in a society.
We really do. I think maybe that's it for Devil All the Time, though.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any more to talk about. I think we've.
I think it's just a good,
Yeah.
good dark adventure drama. If you like Irishmen or
Boo.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood,
Yay.
or No Country for Old Men, or Unforgiven, or if you know what I mean. If you like that
All the
stuff,
westerns.
all the westerns, all the gritty, dark trauma, then consider Devil All the Time. Do we think it's gonna win any Oscars? Maybe it'll get a couple nominations.
I
It
think
already
for,
has 2 nominations, but not for
Have
Oscars.
noms come out?
Not for the Oscars. No.
Okay.
Oh, Golden Globes or something.
I think it deserves
Or-
probably some best acting nods.
Adapted screenplay or acting, I would see.
I don't think that there's a best female performance in there.
Oh,
No.
awards. All right. So for. Oh, never mind.
Well, that's
Hold
also
on.
one of the other themes of the movie that we didn't talk about much, where it's literally just like men controlling women to their own desires.
Yep.
and-
You could always get into that with this time period.
So for the Indiana Film Journalists Association, it was a nominee for Best Vocal Motion Capture Performance and
What does that
Best
mean?
Ensemble Acting.
I don't know. I could see it getting maybe either Pattinson or Tom Holland. I could see either of them getting a nomination for like supporting actor or actor. And I could see best adapted screenplay.
I just don't know enough about the movies this year to like.
It's a hard year to give Oscar predictions for sure.
because it's like what counts. Like what are.
Yeah.
I haven't seen any of the big ones. There's not a lot of huge indie movies, but
Yeah. Hard
who
to say.
knows?
Hard to say.
A
But
lot of them just are on streaming.
yeah, I think it's
services.
gonna be most. I don't think Wonder Woman's gonna
The
be getting any
streamies.
nods. The streamies, literally. But I think that's it, though. I don't know if there's anything else to say.
Yeah, no.
I made my.
Do you want
peace with
another
Devil All the Time.
fact?
Yeah, give us a
Yeah, give us
closing
an
All
fact.
right. Robert Pattinson didn't work with a dialect coach, and crafted his high-pitched Southern drawl on his own. The actor hid his accent from everyone, including the director, until day one of filming.
Imagine if they hated it, though. Imagine if he did it and was like, guys, look. And everyone started laughing.
And they're like, no.
That would be so embarrassing.
Yeah, like apparently the other actors sent the director like recordings of the voices that they were working on, but he didn't.
Oh.
Preferring to rehearse by himself and getting self-conscious by being judged. Oh,
Poor Robert Pattinson's very...
he's really, like, he's like sweet, but like in the unhinged type of way.
He's very discordant.
Well, like you were saying how Robert Pattinson, you're looking for him to be a good guy, right? Like he plays a lot of bad guys in
I'll see him as Batman.
Even Batman's like meant to be morally gray. Like he was in Lighthouse. His character in Lighthouse is not great from what I hear. I really want to watch Lighthouse. Can we watch Lighthouse, guys?
Yeah, that was a last year one, I think, right?
It was, but I still want to watch it because it seems really, really good and indie and cool. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Robert Pattinson is like a better version of Jared Leto in the sense that they're both sort of these method actors, but at least, you know, Robert Pattinson does not send scorpions or whatever to his castmates.
Oh my gosh, yeah, he just hides his accent.
Yeah, decapitated pigs or whatever he did on the set of.
Yeah, you know what, Charlie? I want to see you spiel today.
You want to see me spiel?
I want to see you do the end spiel. I want to see how well you do, and I'll give you pointers if you need it, because I got to do something.
Wow, that is a lot of... Okay. Ladies and gentlemen of the Socratic Cinema family, welcome to the end spiel. I've been granted the honor and privilege of doing this by Mr. James DeLisio. If you guys want to check us out on our other social media platforms, then please go to Socratic_Cinema at Instagram, Cinema Socratic at Twitter, and our link tree is actually in the link in our bio in Socratic_Cinema at Instagram. If you want to give us money and support us as a podcast, then please go follow us on Patreon. If you pledge enough, then I personally will upload a video earlier to there. Usually I do it around Wednesday or Thursday. And then also you get a special thanks from me in the description of every episode.
And once a month, you get a vocal shout out at the start of the episode.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah, think about it.
So lots of good positives. Also subscribe to us on YouTube, get our retention numbers up. And yeah, I love all of you. We've been Socratic Cinema. Adios.